that majority of you already has seen the standards per se. Probably you know that at the end of summer we organized a conference on European Arboricultural Standards in the Czech Republic. I will show you a reference to videos where you can see all the speeches or majority of them again. Yeah, and what is it about? So it's about European Arboricultural Standards, which is a project which we did within 12 countries with one of the major partners being EAC. And we aimed, because as practitioners within the industry and as certification instructors, we learned that if you go through Europe, you see that every arborist is doing his job correctly, but everyone differently. Or not everyone, but there are quite large differences within the arboricultural practice. So we tried to sum up, let's say, the experience and let's say the knowledge of the industry at the moment, and define standards for three main areas for the area of tree pruning, tree planting, and cabling bracing. This is the, let's say, original project, and I'll show you that we are aiming a bit further for the past. So, but this is what we did up until now. Probably you know, because it was the activity of EAC, that before we started this project, we tried to do some research whether we are able to communicate between each other, whether we are able to communicate in English, really, because just consider the fact that 12 countries tried to communicate in language which no one knows properly, really. So it was quite a challenge from the start. Yeah, we did this preliminary research. We defined that, okay, we have areas to let's say, do much more better within these standards. And the texts, which I will show you in a minute, are their intention is not to overrule national standards, because they are in many, well, not many, but in few countries they are already working. Sometimes they are part of legislation systems, so they are rooted into the industry already. On the other hand, probably you will support me in that the national standards are pretty rigid. They are quite old school already in several countries. And plus the, let's say, called establishment who created the standards is, they're not always just arborists. Yeah? And many of those standards are really not that they, let's say, at the level the industry would like them. So we just tried to define the texts which should incorporate at the moment the state-of-the-art knowledge in the arboriculture. If you make picture of this QR code, you will be not forced to write the long link for the standards, and you can download them for free at this moment in English. And new languages are coming up at this moment. I think 6 translations are prepared already, and plus minus 2-3 agreements are being signed already. If any one of you feels beneficial to translate the standards into your local language, it's completely free for you. The only thing, come to us, we will sign with you an agreement, because the principle is to allow only 1 translation per language. Yeah, because it would be stupid to have 3 Czech translations and probably different. It would be disaster. So just 1 per language is allowed, and but it's up to you, and it's free. So the partnership was created based on this, let's say, starting the discussion. I must say that the energy which all the parties invested into the process was really immense. So I will present you the partners at the end of my presentation once more. So most probably You are more interested in the content of the standard, so I'll skip the generic speech. Just here to appreciate what the language barrier within the Europe is, and most probably you know it from your countries that. Yeah, this is tree pruning in all languages which Europe incorporates. And by the way, when we are now in communication with the parties who do the translation, already several times people came to us that they need to invent words in their language to be able to translate the standard. So you just see that the process of creating this text is much deeper than just to say, okay, target pruning, you know it, do it. Yeah? So I'm really very impressed by the impact these texts already in the moment have, and I hope that they will really change the perception of our industry in a way. So this is the table of the context, and I will now go with you through the main points. Of course, not full. Stop me if you want something to be explained or something to add to that. You know, with the target pruning or the ways to remove the branch, no surprises occurred, plus minus. Yeah? The only thing which maybe, and this is one of the, let's say, philosophical steps which all the European standards are making, that we are coming closer to the perception of the tree like a biological entity, and we try to push the industry toward more respecting the biological value, associated organisms, etc. And here, for example, it's quite important shift from several of the national standards which are already in practice. So you will find there not only the, let's say, the clean cuts and the crown sterilization, but as well you will find there approaches toward the veteran tree care and this, let's say, part of the industry. We tried to set a few, let's say, systems or few helping tools how to distinguish between, let's say, good and not optimal type of pruning. So you will find there several of these helping tools. For me, or for our setup, maybe one of the most important shifts was, let's say, to push arborists not to clean the trees as the first thing they do by the start of the work. So you know very well that if you say someone pruned the tree, the first thing they will remove the dead wood. Yeah, that's principle. Which is not, of course, bad if we concentrate only on the risk, but on the other hand, from the biodiversity point of view, this is, let's say, not optimal. And plus, if we consider that not only, you know, of course, dead branches mustn't fall out of the tree, but on the other hand, even the ANSI norms, the US norms, allow few centimeters of dead wood being left by the dead wood removal. So why not make it a bit larger? Because dead branches of this size will definitely not kill someone, but they can, in these numbers which we produce, really make difference from the biodiversity point of view. So at this moment we try not to present it like dead wooding or removal of dead branches, but dead wood management, which of course has a certain dynamics, from young trees where it's not important, up to veteran trees where it's very important to present dead branches. So all this process is, in my eyes, a very important notion within the industry, and for me it defines the point of view where arboriculture should go.
And did you also write down, for example, notes where you advise to keep the dead wood, for example, above water? It's no problem at all, but above a road you should cut it down.
We were not that specific, really, but definitely that's very fair point, and plus the risings management as well. So, you know, there is variety of things which are definitely not included. And, you know, by the way, the standards, maybe the worst part was to reduce the knowledge into something which is readable, which is still, you know, not monography, but standard. The planting standard, which I will show you later, the first version had something like 300 pages, and we had to reduce it to something like 100. So, yeah. I know very well.
That people are starting to think by themselves and make good decisions. That's actually more
definitely.
Okay,
Definitely.
Marvelous.
So another, let's say, important part of the pruning standard was the division of the pruning technologies, pruning interventions into some categories based on development stage of the tree and the purpose of the pruning, which again is very important by definition, defining for the tree worker and why are you pruning the tree. And you are very well aware that there are large differences between intervention into young trees and veteran trees, for example, or shade trees. Yeah, it's completely different approach to the tree. So this differentiation made possible later to define for each of these categories separate rules and separate resources of errors, let's say, the possible problems. This was one of the definition or one of the, let's say, points where we discussed a lot whether to include into the standards even the warning what's, let's say, wrong within the categories. But at the end of the day we did it, and it's not something large, but at least you have the highlights where you should be more aware. So the, let's say, the division of the prunings is into these categories, and for each of these boxes you've got the definition and how it should look like. By the way, for each country we produced as well the national annex, and of course the countries which are doing the translation are free to do that as well, which include parts of the standard which we were not able to get the generic consensus on. So for example, if in some countries they do have more heavier reductions or different kinds of tree shapings or something like that, and it's based more on the tree species structure or climate zones or something like that. So it's possible to add to the, let's say, generic European standards the annex which explains the specifics for the country. By the way, this is very important by the moving people from arborists from country to work there, and it should help them to get much quicker in the market, let's say. Another very important part, and for us at least pretty new part of the standard, is acceptance of the new research in the area of tree architecture. For the young tree pruning, it's very important how you perceive the leader and how is it being developed. And of course you know very well that, for example, the nursery practice is very structural there and not respecting this factor. And we just wanted to highlight it and put it into, let's say, daily work of arborists. So you will find there very exact description how the central leader is being formed and how we should support it by the pruning, by the training cut, let's say, of young trees. Yeah, here just short video to show you how quick we are in Czech Republic by pruning tree. No, but one of the side products of work on this standard was that we really tried to, this was on purpose, that we tried to produce materials which will help arborists to really imagine what we speak about and how does it look like in practice. So that's tree pruning. Again, please download it, read it, send feedback. It's everything is in the process, but we are pretty sure that this is, at least in our context, this meant really very important step forward. Cool. So tree cabling bracing standard. Tree cabling bracing standard as a second issue. was not that, let's say, surprising from the point of view of content. On the other hand, it again meant quite a lot for structuralizing and, you know, even the discussion, for example, what is dynamic, what is static system, where in the crown belongs, what is semi-static system, and all these new features which are being used. It was very intense and very interesting. So again, I hope that you will find quite a lot of new ideas and new points in the text. As main points for the content, I would stress that we try to really push forward that the installment of cabling or bracing systems is in fact the last option if we consider the safety, the stability of the tree. First option should be managing the target, because, you know, trees are not unstable for purpose. They are just trees. Okay, I'll be quick. The second is using pruning techniques to stabilize trees, and only when these two fail, or are not satisfactory, we should go to the installing of cabling or bracing systems. We concentrated quite a lot on material properties of systems being in use at this moment, and a large discussion was on the systematic approach where to install these systems. Maybe you are aware of the fact that if you go through Europe, even if, okay, the general agreement is, okay, dynamic systems in upper half, static in down half, but you've got at this moment static systems with shock absorbers, you've got dynamic systems which has low dynamics. You have even approaches where even the dynamic systems is being perceived like invasive for the tree because they stop the movement at certain moment. So, you know, very interesting experience with the contemporary systems are available at the moment, and definitely read it and check your experience against that. For us who checked the systems from the ground, very important point was to definition of the slack in the system, which, as you know, can show that the rope is already under tension, the dynamic rope at this moment. So to be the slack visible means a lot for the checking procedure. So this is for me the first attempt to really define how it should like. As I said, the damage prevention systems with larger slacks are possible, and all these special installations are mentioned there. For the static ground systems, you will know there, let's say, overview of systems now being in use with advantages and disadvantages for each system. So again, pretty nice, you know, overview of what is used in Europe. Maybe you know that in our context, let's say Central Europe, this slack rope and slack system is being used quite a lot, which is not, let's say, too frequented in other parts, etc. So you will read there that, you know, it's many options to create the static systems, and for each tree, these special trees, you should choose the proper one. And last very important point is, which is again, experience of many arborists, that one of the biggest problems is that trees with static systems are not being recorded and reviewed regularly. And this principle we attacked from 2 points. First is that we defined exactly what should consist the basic and detailed inspection of each system. And we, as a part of the project, created a free app where you can do your inventory of stabilized trees, and this app is now being finalized and produced. And in Czech Republic we use similar system already for 10 years. We've got more than 15,000 trees in register, and we hope that this experience can spread like a model, because the communication with the client, with the landowner, tree owner, and the arborist in this issue is crucial to make the evidence working. Here you've got the QR code for a web page dedicated to the app, and here you've got QR code where on YouTube you will find in the playlist European Arboricultural Standards Conference, the full recording of the conference, which have been organized in summer. It's in English, so I hope it can be a nice resource for you. And the last minute which I have, I will dedicate to this short video, where you again see all the different systems, but just, you know, this is very short, very systematic overview. By the way, we are now in last years. We try to create all or transfer all our knowledge about these cases into video format, because our experience is that younger people already don't read, yeah, and what is not on YouTube doesn't exist for them. So we try to slowly, step by step, offer them the possibility to get these resources on YouTube as well. After the lunch, I'll show you the third standard and say you something about the ECOST. Thank you. The ECOST is the last slide. I'll just go with you through the last standard first, because for the ECOST we started a month ago, so I have not too many information. So I'll just lead you through the last standard, which I mentioned before the lunch, and that's the tree planting standard, which again, from the start, we thought that it will be easy thing to do, because, you know, plant trees, put them in the earth and they will grow. On the other hand, for me that was maybe the biggest shock, because with the post-planting tree pruning or post-planting tree care, that was something which really, you know, my shock was that the Czech and Slovak Republic are probably the only ones who do the heavy tree pruning by planting time. That I know what your experience is, but I was informed that the European community moved away from this practice, and it's logical when we studied it, you know, but you are well aware that all the nursery industry is not that happy with this approach. So within the planting standard, we had two, let's say, main points, or several, but two are main, and that's the quality of planting stock definition, and let's say post-planting tree care, the tree pruning by the time of planting trees. So it was the discussion was really very dynamic, I would say, yeah, and yeah. But, you know, again, very interesting, because, you know, when we had this discussion within our nation, within Czech industry, sometimes I struggle whether the information are more business-driven or factual. But within this, you know, where we discuss with people from Holland, Belgium, Spain, we are not intruding each other territory. So we really can freely say what our experience really is. And for me, this was really refreshing, even if sometimes it was very demanding, whatever. So the part of the tree planting procedure, of course, is choosing the tree for the proper location, where we really drawn from the experience how to define the place, the size tree proper for underground, overground volume available. We defined, let's say, three main technologies how to manage the tree planting procedure based on the quality of the surrounding terrain. And as I said already, that one of the major points which I think the European standards is moving the national standards of some of the countries forward is definition of the planting stock quality, where we use the experience from our colleagues from Holland, where they define three major ways how the tree, or the final image of the tree which we aim for. And based on this definition, the individual tree quality items are being judged. Again, we put their stress on the let's say natural tree architecture, and this is probably something we as the industry must much more communicate with the nursery people and with the nursery industry, which of course is very difficult. But again, you know, to get tree which has been 10 years mutilated and start a standard procedure of tree care is in fact impossible. So, and you know, this is something which really heavily influences the practice in Czech Republic now, because all the industry mutilated the technologies to accept bad quality on the start. But for me, this is no way. This is, you know, completely stupid thing, because you teach people how to again mutilate trees to get them somehow. Yeah, and so this is very, for me, very sensitive area now. And even if I understand that there is lots of business pressure on the background, here most probably we are, as people who understand trees and have this, you know, long-term experience, should much more invest time and energy to make it someone going in better stage. Well, we'll see. Time of planting was very interesting, because, you know, Europe is from one point of view pretty small, but on the other hand it's Canary Island as well. So we have quite a lot of differentiation in the planting seasons. So we define all these, we proposed optimal seasons for each climate zone. And then there are several pretty interesting smaller points. For example, at this moment in our context, many companies prefer these interesting shapes of planting pit, because it stops or helps the tree not to circulate the roots within the planting pit, and it's not that, you know, that problematic to maintain. At the moment, and probably you are in the same situation, very crucial point is the water management, because if we don't use these, let's say, original or historical ways how to protect the water around the stem, at least for the first year, the tree is not watered properly. And then, of course, and with the development of the climate, most probably the importance of that will increase in the near future as well. The pruning and planting, as I told you, this is very sensitive even now. Even within the industry, we have quite strong pressures against that. But on the other hand, this is a very important step, because if we prune heavily trees by the planting time, we increase the number of necessary interventions in near future. I know how it does look in your countries, but in Czech Republic there is, you know, almost hysteric tree planting now in the process. Really, the government heavily supports the tree planting, which is fine, but you know, to plant 10 million trees within 5 years.
In the forest?
No, no, that's exactly the point. Because, you know, they are really pushing it, and of course, as the hype of the information hit the public, many local sponsors, so Hornbach and I know whoever is heavily, so every idiot is planting trees at the moment, and the results are terrible, because not only the planting quality, but you know very well that investment in tree planting is 1/3 of money you need to get the tree. So where are the 2/3? And that's, you know, that's going to be total pain in very near future. So, you know, I just want to tell you, I know what is your context, but in our context, this is now, you know, the total highlight of all arboriculture. And for next 10 years, this will be, you know, war situation really. Yeah. So be aware of that, and, you know, just because the climate change is very political elsewhere, and for politicians, okay, give me the solution. What about planting trees? Yes, here are the milliards, yeah, and that's the problem. Yeah, so yeah, tree pruning and planting, very important thing. You know, majority of the pages which we deleted at the end were dedicated to a large variety of special approaches to tree planting, which is of course very important, but on the other hand, this is more connected with the urbanistic situation really. You need to change all the around situation to be able to use these techniques. So at the end we just summarize them for a very short overview, but not describe them properly. So you'll find there all these special. palm tree is very important thing for Czech Republic, for example. So we have just, I think, 2 of them. So we
Domestic garden.
maybe. Yeah. So again, the video material, and we are still collecting that. For example, this is the creation of this interesting shaped tree pit. It was for ladies. And yeah, and the tree pruning and planting and stuff like that. So it's lots of really interesting points within the tree planting procedure, which most probably every country does slightly differently, and we can just use the experience of each other to choose the optimal variant for the situation we are in. For example, the stem protection by the colors, by the white color, is very, very fragmented at this moment in our context, etc. Okay, so tree planting, very nice, very important, and now just to appreciate, can you use the sound? Appreciate the team. So these people are guilty. You see some of those in the audience, so you can then insult them for the text. So this is, and you know, maybe my question would be, or try to consider, because we had already several questions, or how to integrate these standards, or is it meant to replace the national standards, or what's the intention of this work? You know, first of all, we are European Arboricultural Council, and if ETW should be European, sorry, it can be based on local standards. We must certify one thing, not 27. Yeah. So first intention is just to get one knowledge base for EAC, for ETW, ETT available. This is the first aim. And of course, we really did our really best to be as open as possible. So hopefully you will not find there something which is contrary to your experience. And even if, as I said before, the local standard or national standards can be more integrated with legal system and with all these features which are very important, keep in mind that arboriculture should be international. We are not just, you know, we are three people. So to incorporate these standards into national situations should be our aim. Yeah, and not because they are European, because they are, you know, industry of our industry. So if you think that it's possible, if you find the ways, feel free. Everything is open. Everything is open source. By the way, just the one thing that the standards are for free is something which really is a bit shaken part of the industry. When I presented in UK, this was the information which was important. Yeah, because the British standards are cool, but for, I don't know, £100, whatever. You know, if you speak to electrical companies, to railway managers, they will not buy standards. We must push them, you know, overwhelm them with our knowledge to be accepted. So just the point that these standards are just generally available is very important, and let's hope it will help to our industry. And the last, this is for my 20 minutes presentation, yeah, this slide. No, I don't have much more information for our next project, because we ended the test project with the 3 standards in the summer, and we got support for next 3 years to develop standards for the area of tree consultancy service, which is the tree assessment, value calculation, and protection of trees during development activities. This project had already, I think, 1 or 2 meetings, so no outputs are yet presented. But again, the team is plus minus very similar. Feel free to ask for questions for different areas. We even enable, if you wish, to let you join us for some of the meetings, or you can be directly informed with these preliminary versions of the standard if you wish to contribute. So feel free to communicate with us, and this standard will end in next 3 years. So of course we will inform you about the process. So fingers crossed.